guys, this is Michael, also known as Salty Whale. This is a podcast on investing, collecting, and Flesh and Blood gameplay. Today we have a guest, James, from the Flesh and Blood community on Facebook. He's a huge part of Unseals and the greater community. So, why did you get to Flesh and Blood in the first place?
Very good question. So I got into Flesh and Blood right around September 2020. Actually, Rudy was the reason why I got into Flesh and Blood. Funny story. As well as a little poke from Chris Sayers. Once I heard them talking about it, and Chris was ripping some boxes of it on a different channel, I immediately started kind of looking at it just a little bit. Didn't really care at the beginning. And then I got into it further by looking at what is this game? What are the cards? How does it play? What's the value propositions? Who's running it? What do the financials look like? I just completely immersed myself for literally 3 days straight. I was like spending 12 hours a day. I came to the conclusion, basically three things convinced me that I should spend or bring, 6 figures plus of my own money into this market. Number one, I did so much deep due diligence into James White. I digested every morsel he's ever said. Multiple times I would listen to his voice for his inflection and just looked at his overall pedigree as an understanding of who he is and what he's doing. That was very convincing. I kind of view him, honestly, as the Elon Musk of TCGs. Don't quote me on that. But the second point was just the game itself. It just looked interesting compared to Magic and other games before. The game had a lot of unique things about it, and it looked like someone spent a lot of time, and per my research, many years. So that was very convincing, as well as something that's, when you're investing in startups, for instance, you either check if somebody's going to have a better mousetrap to an idea, or they're going to have a fresh, new, disruptive idea. In this case, they have a fresh, new, disruptive idea, in my opinion, of course. And because of that, I was even more convinced. The third was the financial aspect of it. Took a look at their reprint policy, took a look at the cards themselves. Do I like these cards? They look fantastic. They look cool. The cold foiling was amazing. It just got me really excited. Truth be told, I got in before like a really big run of it, but I really, really enjoyed all that research, and I enjoyed buying the hell out of the game. And I love to grade cards already from Magic, so looking at these cards after I started buying some from you, actually. One of my first buys was from you, actually, Cold Foil Commons from Alpha. I know you remember that. But,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that got me going, and I love the scarcity. I started opening product, and it just kept rolling like a snowball. And so that's how I got into the game. And then, of course, I have a couple friends that I got into the game, like Andrew. And then, of course, Mr. Saint came along and went bananas, and the rest is history. We love this game.
Yeah, I definitely remember that first interaction we had. That's another story, but also triggered a big buy run for me too. I'm like, oh, there's some new investors getting in here. Maybe I shouldn't be selling my Cold Foil Commons. So that was a good story. Thanks for explaining that. But so that's a little history of why I got in Flesh and Blood. But right now, Tales just launched a few weeks ago. What are your thoughts on the current market, cards and box prices?
I just love the box prices. I disagree with other opinions that it should be higher. I love the price point. It's the most optimal price point to build a solid bottom to a market. It also allows new players that are coming into the game, to experience all the first edition cards, which are what got me in love with the game. And honestly, I didn't even want to play the game for a minute, and then I got to playing the game because I had the cards in my hand. I started with the Ira deck. Played a couple games, didn't even like it. Played a couple more, and I was like, one day later, I was like, well, I want to play more now. So I made a Bravo deck and a Dash deck. In fact, I actually bought most of a Dash deck, and that's when it was still super cheap. And then I just started playing games. I have hundreds of games under my belt now, but then at that moment, I didn't realize I would actually fall in love with the gameplay too, From a collectible standpoint, I already had identified it as solid, but to get back to Tales, this price point is just juicy. It's great. It's great for the game. It spreads it to the players, heck, it's great to be able to play with First Edition. Like, I remember, if we were relating this to Magic, buying Revised, a dual land in 95, 96 when I was a kid was like $10, and I didn't even give a crap about dual lands. I cared about Shivan Dragon, which now is worth way less than dual lands, because as a kid you cared about the cool art and the big creature. But this price point is just fantastic. Players are going to open it. They're going to get the chance to get a Fabled. They're going to get a chance to get Legendaries. They're going to get a chance to play with cold foils because they're cheap enough to do so, and you have to play with them, right? So I think it's just spectacular. Just because you can't 5x your tendies in 5 minutes, if you feel like that's how this game should be, I think that you're in it for the wrong reasons. You should look in the mirror and say to yourself, listen, that was during a ridiculous Bitcoin bull run. There was massive scarcity to products, and you don't see run-ups like that typically. And, you know, the standard investor in the world wants 8 to 10%. You're asking for 500% in, 2 weeks. That's just unreasonable. I think that the box itself is a great buy to hold as sealed. It's a great buy to open. It's a great buy to play with. I feel like it has all three. I'm super excited about this set. It's my favorite set since Arc, in my opinion. Like, just for me personally, like my personal love of it, I just want to rip these boxes into oblivion, man.
100% agree. Arc was definitely my favorite set, but from drafting standpoint, I loved playing this.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, though. I mean, Tails, again, price point, I agree. It's really good. I thought it was going to be a little bit higher when it came out, though, because there was no unlimited. But it definitely, I like the price point right now. But we have no idea what the print run is right now. We know the print runs of ARC, WTR, CRU. We don't know what Mon is or even what Tails is.
Right.
If this is 100, 120,000 boxes, not saying that's the number, but if that is, what are your thoughts on that, and how's that compared to like early Magic?
Well, Magic had so many years to age, and it proved that TCGs were viable places to park capital. And I think Flesh and Blood, if you believe in the game itself and the way that they're creating their ecosystem, players, collectors, investors, evil manipulators, the whole shebang is always part of any TCG ecosystem that's thriving. You see it in Pokemon and Magic too. But Magic proved that, and I feel like Flesh and Blood is very understanding of that trail that's already been blazed. Magic understands now, by looking back at data, what print runs meant. Fortunately, a lot of that data is public for Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. So I know James White is smart. I can just sense by the way he comes off. When I used to post about, we love James White, I love James White because I feel like he cares about his company, and because he cares about his company, he's not going to just pump a crazy print run out unless he feels there's sufficient demand for it. He's also not going to try to underprint it on purpose to print the free tendies and lock the players out. So I think the print run size is going to be commensurate with the proprietary market data that they have, and only LSS is really going to have those figures. So I trust in their piloting of the ship. Monarch, I'm sure there's a very good reason why they doubled up with the Unlimited at the same time to not lock the players out. And you know what? In retrospect, he was very right. Imagine, Monarch cases were what, 1.6K at one point? Do you think a player is going to want to come in and start playing the game when all the cards are like 500 to 700 a legendary? No, you had to have the Unlimited there. So I think his move was fantastic, and it was the right move. Sure, short term that doesn't make cases as explosive for Monarch, but you really need a player base for a very great game. Unless you have some outside IP like Pokemon does, where they have the show and the video games. If you don't have those anchors, you need a game player, you need that ecosystem of players. And he's really going for that. And you can just see his road is paved through competitive play. He said it time and time again in his interviews as well. I agree with whatever print run he put out. It's for a good reason. And get this, he can put Unlimited out when he feels the market's ready. They're paying attention. They're not stupid. They're going to pay very, very close attention to what the prices of all the key cards are. If they start to inflate and they start to moon and this box goes to $300 quickly, I can guarantee you they're going to try to move Unlimited up. It would make the most sense. If I were in his shoes, that's what I'd be thinking, right? So I like the print run. I like what they've been doing so far. I think that they should cater to all three bases: investor, collector, and of course, in my opinion, the first most important thing is the player, because they drive all of that, and players can turn into investors and collectors too. Look at me, I do all three. So
Yeah, man, that's how I started too. I started off as a player, saw the cold fall, got addicted, and now I became a huge investor in this game.
Absolutely.
With the unlimited conversation right there is
Mm-hmm.
people mentioned the Fallen Empires type thing. Like, oh, will Monarch be like Fallen Empires? Will Tales be like Fallen Empires?
Yeah.
Does that concern you at this moment, or do you think it's restricted because of unlimited?
I have very special memories about Fallen Empires. My mother bought me Fallen Empires booster packs, and I got them under the tree, and I opened them, and I tried to play with these cards, and they were utter garbage. It was the worst set from a strategic standpoint, not playable except maybe 5-6 cards, and just a bunch of weak garbage creatures, except a couple pump knights. I mean, basically, it was all dumpster fire. And so the whole set, not only was it trash, but it was printed to oblivion. To me, that was Magic's big power grab, the big land grab, and they're really testing that market, because I know they hit such a home run with Revised. But I think from LSS's perspective, they're going to print unlimited, but I think they're doing a decent job of controlling it. But to get back to your point, Monarch Unlimited, they had to kind of blast it out because they didn't really understand how much they were going to grow. And if it was too little, they might freeze new players from coming in. So maybe sometimes a little bit of dilution on the unlimited side is fine. Probably learned a slight lesson there. Maybe they go 20% less product, or maybe they get a situation where they're going to tranche it out every quarter in a different fashion. But something tells me, honestly, from a feeling standpoint, they probably had to make a decision to print it all at once and get it over here. And with all the COVID shipping, they were up against a decision whether they had to print it all and get it all out, or maybe not get as much out and then undercut the market. They might have been afraid of that. So that's a possibility there in that situation. I can't know for sure, but I can think of reasons why Unlimited would be printed a little more than it should have, which I think Monarch may be a little bit too much. But hey, it absolutely makes the players happy, right? There's no complaints on the cost there. First editions, though, need to be tightly controlled in the way you launch them, in the way you bring them out. And I think that James is understanding with each launch more and more how to do that and learning his lessons. So that's pretty much all I have on that topic.
Cool. Well, let's talk about some the big cold foils of Tales. So we got a brand new Fable, nice looking tree.
Yeah.
And we had 6 new Legendaries. So what are your favorite ones of the set?
Really love the Corsham. Looks cool. Print quality wise, I noticed from a graders perspective, it's the nicest Fable by far, I think, from the pack. I have pulled one so far, so mine is probably going to be a 9. So I'm still buying a little more of it, but no, I just think from a print quality standpoint, they did well on that one. I think from a usability standpoint, it is a playable Fable, so that's going to be interesting how it figures into decks. By far, the Ramshead one-hand shield is absolutely the most sickest card. As a Guardian player myself, I love it. I think the art on it is super sick too, and I think it's going to be a really strong Legendary. I really am excited about some of the deck builds out of this set. You can't really say for sure that all Legendaries are this or that yet. I mean, people say something about Crown of Seeds where the art is a little weak, but the playability of it could be amazing in a specific deck build. That's the interesting part, I think, about this set, is that even when maybe someone doesn't favor how a card looks, the interesting ways they're actually playable that I've seen, they've yet to really be discovered how much you can go crazy with this set. So the other thing, I do like the foiling on all these from an art perspective. I think they did a pretty great job. I don't really prefer New Horizons. I think they could have done more with that particular card. That's my personal opinion, though. A lot of people love it. Functionality of it is super cool, though. But I like some of the colors, man. Just from an art perspective, it will look good in a pretty slab. And there is value to the look of a card. It's been proven time and time again, not just the gameplay of it derives value long term. The Shock Charmers, for instance, very pretty card, moderate power level, pushes that 1 damage through, or etc., but looks super cool. Hey, you could see that be valuable in the future because of the way it looks. That's what happens with Vesuvan Doppelganger in Magic. That's what happens with Sarah Angel in Magic, etc. Go down the line. They're both, pretty cards. So those are my thoughts on the foils, the cold foils specifically.
Yeah, I mean the Shock Charmers and the Ram's Head definitely are fantastic. And the Ram's Head was the first legendary, in my knowledge, that was a full art essentially. So I really liked that aspect of it. I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Runeblade art. I don't really play Runeblade. We have quite a few Runeblades now, but the Spellbound Creepers, I really like the dark, demonic type art and the purple. The purple really pops in cold foil to me.
Yeah.
But besides that, the Shock Charmers is also my favorite. The art's really, it's really beautiful.
Absolutely.
So we also had a few CF Majestics this time. So we're continuing the weapon trend. But we also had CF Pulses this time, the cold foil bordering. And then we also had RF Majestic alt art. But what are your thoughts on those from a collectible standpoint?
I like them more than I liked the cold foil L specifics to Monarch, like Doomsday. I like the Pulses better from a looks standpoint. If you can't tell, I absolutely love this set. I'm going to be buying as many boxes as I can stomach. Still am. I just enjoy the set itself. It's been a while since I got into this game that I felt actually passionate about a new TCG. Shades of like 95, 97, 2000, about Magic. So those specific arts, they make me happy when I see them. They just look beautiful. And, that's like a painting. And with the cold foiling, it just makes it pop even harder. Would I play that card? Maybe if it was off center with some chips, I might even throw it in a deck and play with it because it's $50 right now. And you know what? You can play with those cards. Like if you want to make a deck and you want to pimp it out and foil it out, it's really not that expensive when you're comparing it to a pimped out EDH deck from Magic or a pimped out vintage deck from Magic. So, I know certain people don't want to pimp their deck out. Some do, some don't. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just depends on where it lands. I like to collect the cards mostly when I'm looking at cold foils, but those cold foils specifically was super excited about. And the weapon looks super great in Majestic cold foil. I find that there's a fair bit of players that like to play with the cold foils. They put them in that one touch, or not yet graded, but the one touch seems to be popular. And it makes sense, protect it, but also you have something that's valuable still. Heck, if you don't like Oldham, then you can just trade it, and it'll still have value. That's the beauty of it. Not every card is $5. And to me, that also teaches kids that are getting into the game, hey, be mindful, of your position managements. Teaches a lot of lessons, this game does. It also exercises your brain. I'm excited about everything, but to get back to your topic, I just think they hit a home run with the Majestic cold foils in this set.
And then the trend they had keep varying at each set, which is kind of interesting. He had extended art, full art, essentially Twinning Blade, Crucible War. We didn't know if they're going to reprint it or not, and they did not, which is really exciting. But then we also had the extended arts in Monarch, the 3 different extended arts. But this one, we had an alt art, essentially, a completely different art of the channel, Lake Frigid. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I love the card. I've pulled it once. I'm seeing that it's super scarce. I'm 12 cases deep. I've only pulled one. I see that it's not that great a quality. When it came out in mine, it wasn't like a BGS 9.5. So what that says to me is it might not grade that well, which means that the nicer copies will be worth more, in my opinion. I think that from an alt art perspective, they could have done 1 or 2 more in different slots, which would be interesting to me. And I think that also makes it interesting, such as the short print run of that Crack Bobble and Crew, which everyone loves. I love that damn Bobble, but
everybody loves Bobble.
I think the short printed common rainbow foils are just hot. Like they did the Talisman of Dowsing as well in the Monarch, right? And that's cool art in my opinion, which I have one of the prints from the artist. Super, super cool. I think that type of stuff is cool. The amulets are allegedly short printed, which is what someone was saying, but I'm not 100% sure how short. I do know I haven't been getting many, so that's actually good. But I think from like a set perspective and the way that I see the set open and my opinion on the set, I think it's a 9.5, 9 out of 10 in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely would be nice to throw in more alt arts, but it's definitely exciting when you get one. I've opened 16 cases and I still have not pulled one. So
Wow.
they are pretty rare. I've had good luck on Fables, which I've let you down, but I have
Yes,
not got any alt arts. So we have a lot of new people playing the game now. So what are your thoughts on the new or budget investors on this set?
So if I'm a budget investor getting into the game, let's say I have $500 that I'm going to be able to spend over the next 6 months on this game. It's my recreation money. Probably buy a couple boxes, open the boxes, have my cards. Any additional stuff, I try to go to my LGS and use some of their bulk to build my decks out. And then I'd trade any cards that I needed. I'd reserve that other 300, for singles that I need to buy, and things that are going to be good long term for decks, such as Enlightened Strikes or CNCs are pretty strong staples. But I would just be wary of what I'm doing and buying. And, when the price of this box is this low, this early, it reminds me a lot of Crew when it was 300 a case. And I just don't see this box staying at $120 for a long time. It might take 60 days, to really move a little. But I wouldn't be shocked if it went to 230 days. That wouldn't shock me or anything. Do I think that'll happen? I don't know. But I do know that this set's going to be open very, 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 very much. And I see them get ripped all day long by everybody in sight, which is a good thing. That's what the game's supposed to be for. Enjoy it. We're not supposed to have 90% of our boxes sealed in the evil investor's dungeon in their vault, right? So budget investor, I'd be putting that 300 out on the street to get those special singles, things that are going to be staples for me, what my deck focus is, and things that are hopefully versatile. You can never go wrong with a tunic, right? And some of those staples. But I would also opt for non-cold foil weapons and things of that nature. And then I just work my way up to things that had to be cold foils. Like if I was playing Oldham and I need that shield, I'm going to try to work my way up to it. Maybe I neuter a little bit of my Majestics that I can't secure yet, if I can't afford to get them all. But I want to secure that shield early because not only is, in my opinion, that shield a solid piece to just have, but it has such utility. That shield is savage.
Yeah, and it just looks fantastic too. So from a collectability standpoint, even if you have a budget, to have that one legendary in your set that, it looks really cool when you're playing it, and it's something you can hold on for a long time and be proud of.
And remember, Lamar, when you open those boxes, who knows what could be in there? You could pull an L, and then it might not be the L you want, but it could also be a Corsham. You could parlay that definitely into $500 worth of other things. You could decide that you're going to take all the bulk from the LGS, where a lot of LGSs have free bulk, which is fantastic. I'm donating mine, you're donating yours. Get with the local community, and they'll help you build your deck out. There was a guy at an LGS down here. He's helped me build my Oldham deck. I don't even know the guy. This community's fantastic, man. So get with the community. They'll take care of it.
Yeah, I always recommend find a local community. The Flesh and Blood fan page, you can search on there. For example, I had the Seattle community. So if you find your local community, people are more than willing to help you learn a game, get you set up on Table Simulator, build your decks or whatnot.
Yep.
So the last topic I have is we're almost at the 2-year mark of Flesh and Blood, which is really exciting. But also exciting is Rudy decided to do Black Swan or his merchant card and promo set deal. So I think that's really exciting, but since this is investor slash collectibility focused podcast, what are your thoughts on his promo? And I also want you to consider is how does that compare to like alpha cards or first edition art cards, where we know there's like a 800 plus, legendaries, like 1,000-ish cold foil commons.
Yeah.
How does something like that compare to those?
Well, it reminds me a lot of these pins from Magic that were Power 9 pins with, the Moxes, Mox Alpha Beta, Mox Pearl, Jet, Ruby, Sapphire. So all of those were all in these pins, and there was a limited set of like 200 of them. And they were super cheap when they came out, like $2-3 each. There were some given for free. And now they're selling for like 100 a pin. And although Rudy's the messenger in this case, I won't say that set is not a bad buy. Now, do I know what he's even going to sell it for? 1,000 to 2,000? I mean, do I agree with that pricing? I don't know. But I'm sure there's a reason why it's being sold for that much. And I find it interesting that he says he'll burn all the rest. Is that going to be in reach of the average player? No. Will it be in the reach of some collectors? Yeah, definitely. Supposedly the cards have some sort of etching on them, which is interesting to me. So I find it exciting to see stuff like that. I know a lot of people hate on Rudy for having that exclusiveness, but to be frank, I actually don't think this market would be half the size it is without his input in the beginning. And so although sometimes he's on the attendees train, love him or hate him, he did help bring visibility to this game, and that is not debatable. So my thoughts against Magic, though, versus that collectible, as far as a promo standpoint, the old Magic promos and weird items from Magic have held very good value. Do I think maybe it'll take many years for it to be very, very nostalgic? Potentially. It seems like we're in an accelerated time, though, where like things can accelerate and be nostalgic quicker. It just seems that way with Flesh and Blood. It's a very weird thing, but I will say that if they don't proof or do anything else with Fables, then the item becomes a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and then another thing too with the Rudy's bundle is, he has like concepts for the first 3 gems, but it looks like he might showcase off the 4th gem. So that sounds really exciting. They might be going back to gems again.
That really got me excited. I'm going to guess that it's something that's red or it's something that's white, because, hypothetically you're trying to cover the color spectrums, but it could also be something crazy that we don't have any chance to understand, Could be a black gem, it could be a lot of things. He could also be BSing and throwing us a curveball and it's something else. So he's not known to. I would say it's probably going to be a gem, but stranger things have happened, stranger things have happened. And I'm happy it's a gem because I love gems, man. The eye, the heart, the shard, they're amazing. I love the way they look in cold foil. I even like how they look in rainbow foil. I play a heart in a deck. I play an eye in another deck. So they're valuable cards in cold foil, but also in rainbow foil. They can have some utility in certain builds. So I think I like the concept. People don't like that it's behind the paywall. I get that. I'm not even a patron, so I can't even buy it either. But I find it to be a very valuable thing from a marketing perspective. I really think it's a smart move by LSS.
Yeah, and that's a good way to celebrate 2 years right there too. Is Rudy is a big backer in the beginning. So now he has a little story on it. He's got the reason why it's a merchant, reason why it looks like it's a reveal a PSA 10 or gem mint card. So that's a little humor into it. And it's a non-tournament legal.
That.
It's a non-tournament legal card too, like Go Bananas. Well, James, I think that about wraps it up. I appreciate you coming on this podcast. It was great talking to you. Thanks for giving your insights.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lamar. Really appreciate it. Like what you're doing here, and tune in to Unseals, tune into the graded group. We'll have a lot of content as well that's related to Flesh and Blood, particularly grading and looking at raws, and we always try to keep things fresh in there. But that's my little plug. Appreciate you having me on, Lamar. You have a good one now.
You too. Take care.